G'day everyone, Rach here from Book Piles. Welcome to a different sitting. I'm being very either efficient or very lazy, but I've got 3 videos to film today for 3 different channels, and while I could turn you around and sit in front of the books, it's actually a lot quicker for me just to film here today. So I'm sharing what I read in December, and everything I read was actually on my Kindle. So I've got some notes in front of me. So I'll just talk through 5 of the 6 books, and you can jot them down on your list for next Christmas if you want, because 5 of the 6 were all Christmas romances. So yeah, just ignore the background. Just ignore the background and listen. There'll be a nice big book cover covering that mess there, and we will get on. I'll just touch on the 6th book that I'm not going to review because it's a non-fiction writing book. So I read Structuring Your Novel by K.M. Wheeland, and yeah, it was for my writing stuff. So I started it in December and actually finished it in January. So we'll cross that off the list. So I had to go back through Amazon and see what I had read and then what all these books were about. So that's an inkling, as well as, I'm just rubbish at giving you reviews anyway. So I think of the 5, 3 came in at 3 stars, 1 at 4 star and 1 at 5 star. But I'll give you the order that I read them in. So the first one I read was Christmas Cupid by Isla Madden Mills, and I haven't read any of her stuff before. I kept seeing it on Instagram, I think, which is why I brought it, and until I went back to Amazon today I couldn't tell you anything about that book. So it was a 3-star read for me. It is Kyler and Iris are the lead characters. He's an injured hockey player and she's a shoe designer, and her brother says he's got a cabin that he has rented and he can't get out of. Why doesn't she go and stay in it? There must be something going on for her. So I just don't remember. And that's one of the pains, I think, actually, digressing, of a Kindle. It's easy to flick through a book and remind yourself of what and when and why. It takes a couple of pages to find what the situation is. I don't find the Kindle as easy for that, so I have to go back through Amazon and read the book blurb and read the reviews and try and remember. Something will jog. Anyway, so something has happened. The brother has said, I can't go to this cabin, you go. However, he has also told his fellow teammate the same thing. And so a bloke and a bird end up at the cabin at the same time. It is, I think, am I wanting to say, well, this one is a bit of an enemies to lovers, because that's one of the tropes I look for anyway. So they don't hit it off great. They get snowed in, so they can't get out. She's all for sending him back because he's got the vehicle, and they spend Christmas together in this cabin. Was her brother playing Cupid? Who knows? It was an okay read. As I say, I couldn't remember anything about it, so it wasn't a standout for me. I haven't thought about it again. In fact, when I look at the pictures, I'm like, did I actually even read this book? So there we go. I think it's also a novella rather than a full length as well, so it's a quick read. It's not, because I can't remember anything about it, doesn't mean it's a bad book. It's just, it was fine. The second book I read was His Christmas List by T.L. Swan. And again, this was a short Christmas romance. She has to go to Alaska, which is probably why I brought it, because I like the idea of Alaska. She has to go to Alaska for business, and there are mix-ups with transport, and she ends up hiring a car. She runs off the road. He rescues her, takes her back to his cabin, It is a short read. Things happen very quickly. If I remember rightly, I think he did something at the end which I thought was quite nice. Um, that's it. What is it I got here? Do remember the end? Yeah, so yeah, I remember him doing something at the end that I thought was quite nice. Beyond that, it's a quick Christmas romance by T.L. Swan. The third book that I read, oh, and I gave it 3 stars. The third book I read was Home for Christmas by Camilla Eiley, or Isley, I still don't know. This one is my 5-star read of the 5 of them. So he is a writer with writer's block, and he's decided to hire a cabin long term, well, months, in the mountains, and it happens to be over Christmas time. Obviously, these are all Christmas romances. He tells the letting agent that he is going to go to his family for Christmas, and she can sublet the house while he's gone. So that is what happens, except that his plans fall through and his family come to him instead, and literally as his family is arriving, the sublet family is arriving. And the sublet family includes a female, obviously. Our lead characters are Riven. He is called Riven, and she's called Wendy. And so, as you do in romance novels, the letting agent goes, right, let's try and figure this out, because there are no other places to stay. And so both families end up in this small cabin together. And it ends up with Riven and Wendy in a bunk room on bunk beds. So they don't obviously hit it off very well initially, but obviously as the story goes on, things change. And I actually really enjoyed this book. I think the scenes between them were really cool, and oh, my throat is funny. The dynamics with both families were really cool. It was a really nice, cozy Christmas read. That's what I remember it from, and I liked it enough that I gave it 5 stars. But beyond that, I can't tell you anymore, because I'm YouTube's worst book reviewer. I need to put that on my thing, don't I? I am becoming a bit of a fan of Camilla Isley's writing. Her most recent release, Not in a Billion Years, is one of my top reads. So, and I actually read another one of her Christmas books in November, and that was actually all right too. I might have given it 4 stars. I can't remember what it's called now. This one to me was better than the first one that I read. Then I'm starting to remember more, because these are the later reads that I've read. The 4th book was Big Nick Energy by Morgan Elizabeth. And I read this because it was being hyped everywhere. I think initially when I first started seeing it come through Instagram, I'm like, no, it's got kids. I'm not interested in books with kids in them. And if this is the first video of mine you're watching and you're like, why? It's because I used to work with children, so I just don't like kids and steamy romance books. So I think I discounted it because it had kids, but I just kept seeing it everywhere. It's really good, it's really good, it's really good. So I brought it and I read it. I gave it 4 stars. So the story is that she has left, and there is an abusive husband. So if you're triggered by things like that, you tread carefully. So she has left her abusive husband with her 2 kids, and she's trying to make it on her own. I think a friend encourages her to join a dating app, and she meets this bloke. And they go out on a date, and they realise pretty much straight away that they are friends material, and that's it. he invites her to Thanksgiving at his father's Christmas tree farm. And the father, who is Nick, and she is Shay, they bristle. She's not really in a space to deal with this whole big family situation, and she's being pleasant to a friend and that's all sort of thing. But the father just keeps putting his foot in it, and he asks the girls, who are young, 8 and 10, something like that, if Elf on the Shelf visits them. And of course they know what it is, but she has never done it for them because of the time and effort that goes into doing Elf on the Shelf. So she gets really angry with him for suggesting this, and then making her look like a bad mother, and which is what she thinks it is, not him saying that. So his way of remedying it, and remember, this is the father of the guy she dated, his way of remedying it is going to her house every night and doing Elf on the Shelf for the kids. And slowly through that interaction over the 24 days, they develop a bond. And initially, for me, it was really nice. He was coming across as a really nice guy. He cared about what was happening for her. He cared about the girls. He put in a lot of thought and stuff to make it really exciting. As he learnt things about the girls, he adjusted and he did things and I liked it at the beginning. Towards the end, when the romance started and the sex started, I drew back. That's why it was not a 5-star read for me. So what I really struggled with is, so she's just left an abusive husband, and she's now entering into a relationship with quite a dominating man. And you don't see that at the beginning. It comes out as the relationship blossoms and grows and expands. And I just thought, if you've gathered yourself up to leave an abusive man who's made you feel this big for however long, are you really going to start shacking up with someone that now starts telling you what to do in the bedroom and all of that sort of thing? And I would like him to have been a really nice hero without the dominating stuff that went with it. It just didn't ring true to me. If I felt like if someone started dominating me again after I had just had the guts to get out of something, I'm going to say, on your bike, Noddy, I'm not interested in that. I just felt that when it became sexual and he got more dominating, I didn't like it. It just didn't work for me. It didn't work for me. Everything else was great. The way he interacted with the girls, the stuff outside the bedroom, the way he cared about her was great. I just felt she could have done without that, personally. So it wasn't as well of a read as a lot of people say it was for them, basically. The last book that I read in the fiction genre anyway was Holiday for Six by Kelly Finlay. And again, this was another book that I kept seeing on my Instagram. And initially I was like, oh, I don't know. And then I'm like, well, maybe. So basically the premise of the book is that there are 3 couples on a luxury yacht for a week. What I then discover is that Kelly Finlay is apparently known as the Queen of Spice. Okay, so that ratchets it up a little bit more. And then basically, it's a book of smut. It was basically every night they were up to something with somebody between the group. It was a why choose everything. So I haven't read anything of hers. I discover I own one of hers, which is actually one of the stories about this couple. I actually, because I kept seeing it and I was umming and ahhing, I actually asked her on Instagram, can it be read as a standalone or do you need to read the other books first? And she said it can be read as a standalone. And I think it can, unless you are really want to know some of the things that are mentioned in the book. As I say, it turns out, and I discovered this after I had read the book, that I've already got one of the books about the couple. So there are two other couples. There are three couples altogether, and they each have their own book as well. And this is sort of, I've seen written, billed as a bit of an epilogue to these three couples. As I say, I think you can get by without having to know the rest of the story unless you really want to delve into them. I will read probably the one I've got. And then probably subject to that is whether I then read the other two couples. I'll see. There is a hint of a new character was mentioned who was getting his own book, and he sounded quite interesting, so I will certainly have a look at that. I'm not adverse to reading this author. I didn't mind the content at all. It doesn't put me off, and I knew going into it was going to be pretty steamy. You know, it just talks about what they do for the 6 days on the yacht, and one of the storylines, the book ends because of this storyline with two versions of the ending, and you can read a did they or a didn't they version of the ending, which I think was quite good. I don't know which one I prefer, to be perfectly honest, so because I haven't read the other stuff, so maybe I wasn't as invested in these people as I could have been if I had read the previous books. So yeah, so that is my 5 of my 6 that I read in December. And yeah, have you read any of them? What are your thoughts? I will edit this. I will cover up some of my mess with, book covers. And I will catch you again in another video very soon. Thanks everyone. Bye for now.